Do you believe the taxpayer has a right to know how you spend their money?
Senator, Dr. Paul, thank you for that question. We, in the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, our purview is helping our small business navigate through their taxes. We're not in tax policy. So
No, we're not talking about tax policy. I'm talking about the citizens. Do the citizens of the United States have a right to know how you're spending their money?
Well, in our area, we're focused on developing entrepreneurs.
No, this is a transparency question. Do you think the citizens of the United States, through their representatives, have a right to get information from you and your department about how you're spending the money?
My purview is to assist our resource partner network and the community.
It's sort of a yes or no. I don't think you're getting the question. It's a real simple question. The answer is yes, of course the citizens do, but you can't say that?
I can attest to what we're doing at the Office of Entrepreneurial Development.
No, but I mean, it's a more general question. Do the citizens of the United States have the right to know how you are spending their money?
Dr. Paul, I can shine the light on what we're doing at OED. And, in terms of tax preparation, materials that we have.
Now, this is a really general question just on transparency. Do the citizens of the United States, through their representative, have the right to ask questions about how you're spending their money?
I'm here to answer any questions that you have on the Office of Entrepreneurial.
It's a yes or no. Can you acknowledge that, yes, citizens have a right and an expectation to know how their money is spent by organizations? That's why you come here. It's for oversight. It's a very general question. It's not accusing you of anything. It's just saying, do citizens have the right to know how you're spending their money?
Dr. Paul, I would love to just shed some more light on the Office of Entrepreneurial Development.
But you can't answer whether or not citizens have the right to know how you're spending the money.
I'd be happy to talk about our tax preparation classes with our resource partners.
But you can't acknowledge, yes or no, whether citizens have the right and the expectation through their representatives, Republicans and Democrats, to ask you for information on how money is spent. That's a yes or no question. It's a very basic question about transparency, but I'm not hearing you answer yes or no.
Dr. Paul, would love to tell you more about what we're doing at the Office of Entrepreneurial Development. I'm energized to be here and talk about our programs throughout the country.
But this sounds like you're obfuscating the issue and you're not willing to answer that there is sunlight and that you're open to any kind of scrutiny by representatives as to how you're spending the money. You don't believe that citizens have the right to understand how you're spending money and to ask questions through their representatives about how you spend the money?
Dr. Paul, I'm here to answer any questions that you have on.
But I'm asking you, do citizens have the right to know that? And you're giving me some other answer that isn't an answer to the question. This is a question, do citizens have the right to expect you to answer questions about how your money is spent?
Dr. Paul, I'm here to answer any questions that you have on the fulfillment of our OED programs that include the resource partner footprint, the community navigation.
Let the record know that the witness is refusing to answer a very basic question about transparency. The reason I ask this question is we sent you questions back in the beginning of the summer about the Community Navigator program. These are not political questions that I know of. How many organizations applied for funds under the Community Navigators program? That question was asked in the beginning of last summer. We asked again in November, and we haven't had answers. I think your staff decided to send us some piece of paper today or yesterday, still not answering that question. What's the geographic distribution of states and localities covered by each grantee? These are not even politically charged questions that we sometimes encounter, but you can't even answer whether or not citizens have an expectation to get answers from you, and then when we ask questions, you don't answer them. That to me is serious breach of your duty as a civil servant. You can't answer a question on sunlight, and then when we send you written questions of an objective nature, you refuse to answer the questions. You don't even respond to us. I mean, that is utterly contemptuous and disregarding of representative government.
Dr. Paul, we did answer your letter, so I would be happy to answer.
When was the answer? When was the questions answered?
We will get back to your office, but I know that we answered.
No, the questions that I just asked you, the two questions, we got something yesterday or today from your office when you knew you were going to be here and have to answer some questions. You resisted for months sending any answer, but you still haven't answered the two questions that I just outlined. I do not believe we've got an answer for either one of those questions.
Well, Dr. Paul, we believe in transparency, and we did respond to your question.
No more questions.
Let me point out, I believe the Community Navigator program started in December, so it's a relatively new program. So the information is just, I think, becoming available in a way that it's going to be meaningful for us to be able to obtain the type of information that Senator Paul has requested. Senator Hickenlooper?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here, Mr. Madrid. But before I start, I do want to come back to, I'm flummoxed by your exchange with Senator Paul. I can't understand your position on this. Why is it that you think that taxpayers shouldn't be able to have an accounting of how you're spending money?
Senator Hawley, great to see you. We do believe in accountability and transparency.
But that's not my question. My question is, why don't you think they should be able to see how you're spending the money, that it's their money, not your money? And I just don't understand. Why is it you think they shouldn't receive an accounting of how your office is spending the money, of how SBA is spending its money? What's the, must be some philosophical objection here. I just don't understand what it is.
You should be able to see everything that we report and through our public reporting. So we do believe in accountability and transparency.
Oh, so you do think then that the public should be able to see what you spend and what you do. Is that right?
I'm replying in terms of our footprint at OED and our public reporting on our resource partners. And
So, okay, I got it. So the locus of your disagreement with Senator Paul is you just don't want to answer the questions he asked you. That's the real answer. Is that
Senator,
right?
thank you for your question. I'm here to, report on the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, my purview, and so that's what I'll continue to do.
Yeah, the reason I think it's so irritating, frankly, is because this administration and this SBA has repeatedly and consistently stonewalled this committee, and in particular the Republicans on this committee, for going on a solid year now. It's really extraordinary. So to have you come in here and say that you don't think that you ought to have to give an accounting for taxpayer money is really extraordinary. So I just want the record to reflect that I completely agree with Senator Paul and Senator Ernst that your position on this administration's position on this is just really, frankly, unbelievable. And I'm startled that you're taking the positions you are. Let me ask you about some other accountability. For this fiscal year 22, I should say, SBA submitted budget justifications that request funding increases for most of the programs and initiatives that we're here to discuss. I want to know about some of the data, however, that's been published about how effective these various programs are. For example, small business development centers, according to data collected by the SBA's Office of Entrepreneurial Development in their annual studies from 2003 to 2012, only 20% of program participants reported that the services they received enabled them to retain current staff. Only 16% reported that services received enabled them to hire new staff, and only 29% of participants said that the services they received had a positive impact on their profit margin. So let me just ask you, Mr. Madrid, does the Office of Entrepreneurial Development continue to conduct annual studies of program participants to assess the impact and effectiveness of these programs?
We report on our outcomes and our goals, and that is standard per the statute. So we report on the metrics and the goals annually, and those are.
But do you do
available.
studies? But do you do studies to assess the impact of the programs? I mean, we know that SBA did from 2003 to 2012. My staff hasn't been able to find any reports published, I think, past 2012. So this is just a factual question. Do you conduct annual studies of your program participants to assess the impact, or no?
Senator, we issue public reports, so we'd be happy to work with your office on the data that we do have and the reporting that we do have.
But do you conduct annual studies of program participants? That's my question.
We report on the data that's aggregated from our resource partners.
So that's a yes, or that's a no?
We can report on the.
When was the last time you published an annual study?
We can work with your office to give you our reporting that we have on our.
When was the last time you published an annual? I'm just trying. These are not gotcha questions. I'm just trying to establish some basic questions, some basic facts, so I can ask you some questions about them. So either you're not prepared or you're not here to answer my questions, which goes back to what we talked about earlier. So let's try again. when was the last time you published an annual report? You can read the memo your staff keeps giving. Maybe we should have the staffer come testify. He seems to be the one who's giving you the answers. We could probably make room at the table. If somebody's willing to answer questions, I'd love to hear from them. Go ahead.
Senator, thank you for your question. We report publicly, annually, on the metrics that are per the statute. We'd be happy to work with your office to supply them, the most recent ones.
Okay, so those are, you survey the participants of the program annually?
This is the data that we receive through our resource partners, like Capital Infusion, unique clients served, et cetera. We'd be happy to work with your
Well,
office.
have the performance metrics that you've seen, have they improved since the publication of the 2013 report?
I'm sorry?
Have the performance metrics that you've seen, you say that you collect performance metrics.
Yes, they have. There's some of the metrics that have improved, and I would be happy to supply them.
Give me,
to your
well, give
office.
them to me. I mean, so in 2012, only 20% of program participants said that the services they received helped them retain current staff. So what's the number now?
I can give you what we do have in terms of the Capital Infusion, and I'd be happy to work with your office.
Okay. I wish I could say this was productive, but it's manifestly not. And I don't know what to say, Mr. Chairman, other than that we'll give you a bunch of questions for the record. But if we're going to have these hearings and be able to do any kind of oversight, you're going to have to prepare, and you're going to have to come prepared to answer questions. And what this performance today, frankly, is just ridiculous. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me just reinforce a couple comments that have been made. First, every member of this committee is entitled to as much information as we can get for oversight. We do believe in transparency.